Hello, everyone. We're going to get everybody in here for our next roundtable discussion. You see, they are popping in rather quickly. And I want to welcome everybody to GatherVerse AI Summit 2024, where we're going to explore humanity at its core, talking about AI and the future of work. I am Grant McGaw, your moderator for this crucial roundtable discussion. And today we're delving into how AI is revolutionizing our workplaces, from reshaping job roles to enhancing productivity and decision making. And our expert panelists will tackle pressing questions like, how can AI augment employee training? What ethical considerations must we address in AI deployment? And how do we balance AI driven automation with human creativity and maintain a human centric workplace? We'll also discuss AI's role in mental health, remote work models, and talent acquisition. Our goal is to provide actionable insights for businesses on adopting AI responsibly while fostering transparency and trust. So let's dive into this intersection of technology and humanity, and we're going to unravel some of AI's transformative role in the future of work. Now, for this particular panel, what I'm going to do, because we've got 5 or 6 people here, I'm going to ask a question, and then I'm going to go. I'll call your name. Hopefully, I can see your name. I got really bad vision, but I'll do my best here to do that. And then I want you to each, when I call on you, to state your name, who you are, what you represent, and then answer the question. We've got about 14 different slides or so you'll have time to introduce yourself. So, Miriam, since you're right next to me on my panel, no, Maria. Is that Maria? That's how you pronounce it? Maria?
Maria, yeah,
Maria? All
yeah.
right. We're going to go with Maria then. We're going to answer that. We're going to you see the question on the screen. I'm going to have you
Okay.
introduce yourself, kind of move from there. But how is AI reshaping traditional workplace structures and environments?
So I'm Maria. I work with technologists basically, and how it's restructuring workplace for me is just basically being able to increase productivity, access a lot more information. I think that the way that people work now, because they're more productive, there's shorter time frames and just different things that have been restructured because of how much freedom that they may have in their work now. And so I think that that's the main way for me in my company.
I love it. I love it because it definitely is a change taking place without question in the workplace. Michael, you're right below I say Maria because I know somebody with that name, so I'll say Maria. We're going to go to the next question. I guess you're following this, and I also wanted to state, if someone feels they want to jump in on this particular question, jump in. We'll get to you, but jump on in because this is important. So we're going to get Michael off of mute, right? Right? And we say, in what ways can AI enhance human productivity without replacing human roles?
Yeah, so I'm Michael Goldrich. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right. And before I was saying, be careful what you ask for. We'll all be jumping in on everything. So anyway, I'm Michael Goldrich. I'm chief advisor of a company called Levander Advisors, and what we do is we do AI transformation for companies as well as education and upskilling. So I think this is an interesting question about how AI can enhance human productivity without replacing human roles, because there was a study done back in 2020 that says, AI will replace people who don't use AI. And however, AI plus a human will always do better than AI. So to answer your question is, knowing that that's true, that human productivity will need to leverage this AI. So, but how can it do it? It can do personalized recommendations. So you can use this technology that can help in terms of task management, optimizing individual workflows instead of overall group workflows. It could be your personal assistant. So this technology without replacing human roles, can create a personal assistance for scheduling meetings, managing emails, and time management. And those are all things that we have to do that are huge time sucks that everyone will like to have that time back. And also, I guess, in terms of sort of like predictive analytics, this technology can help identify challenges people might have in work before it happens, and then it can augment the response. So that way, these are all things that AI can do to enhance productivity, and it's not replacing humans. And all it is making us a better employee, a better associate. That's what I think about that.
No, I love it, man. Precision and personalization is definitely going to be taking place. Could it be bad, good or bad, depending on the individual, right? We're going to get Charlene. Charlene's going to come off of mute. We're going to talk about strategies that can be implemented to ensure harmonious AI human workforce. That's an interesting question. What do you got for us, Charlene? And introduce yourself. Tell us about you and what you're doing.
Thank you, Grant. So my name is Charlene Nichols. I'm the founder of the Omniverse City. I'm also one of the co-founders of I Wear Art Walk. And I have to say my relationship with AI started when I became an SEO strategist at the beginning of my digital marketing agency. There came a time in digital marketing where you just really needed to produce a lot of content, and research was challenging. And the first thing I realized when I started using AI, and this is before the big AI boom of research, this is like, 6-7 years ago, was that you could take the same piece of content and write it in so many different ways. And I don't come from, and I don't know if there really is a more conservative pathway to AI. Or if there is any true expert in this day and age, because we're learning in real time. But I remember thinking very recently, am I qualified to be somebody working with AI, building AI, talking about AI? But I have to tell you, I do have a team. I trust them. I ask them a lot of questions. I'm in an industry that's very medical focused, and I really want to make sure when I'm building something that I do my research and I understand what we should and shouldn't be doing. And I have to feel like what I've learned recently is AI is, and again, talking from the standpoint of content creation and using it for business strategies, I think it's really a way to leverage information that's already there, but there's just so much information out there. How could you possibly parse it down? And I feel like one of the best strategies is helping people to understand how AI is built. Again, there's a lot of different AIs out there, so I'm talking specifically about the Chat GPT version of AI, which is what everybody thinks of when they think of AI. I've learned that there's different types of AI, lots of ways to leverage AI, but I'm talking specifically about the AI that most people think of, which kind of Chat GPT is branded AI, and understanding knowledge base and data database and how some of that information is used together. Then that person can be empowered to really use AI in a way that they can trust. Because let's face it, I mean, we can't always trust what AI says and does. It does hallucinate. It does give bad information. So it's all about learning how to ask the right questions and how to trust yet verify.
Wow, you said it. And it's new. Think of AI. Someone told me this, and it's so important. Think of AI that it was more or less born on the world stage only a year ago. And it has kind of the intelligence of it in its species, in its world, of maybe a 3-year-old. So of course the 3-year-old is going to make mistakes. It's not even at a 5, it's not even at a toddler stage yet. So it has the propensity for precision, like Michael talked about, but it's not completely precise yet because it doesn't know how to work with us. It's just starting to understand this human world a little bit. And we'll see where this goes. But that was very, very interesting. I'm going to go over to Eric now. You come off mute, introduce yourself, let us know about what you've got going on. But we want to get, because this is a very important question. How can AI be used to personalize and improve employee training and development? You're still on mute.
Yeah, see, I got used to speaking with software that actually recognizes when I speak, that has a little bit intelligence, so it's unmute me. I'm Arik. I run a small a bit of a different advisory team, and we just launched 3 weeks ago a Center of Excellence exactly tackling that specific question. It's a Center of Excellence to try to understand and close the gap between reskilling and education. And I see more and more organizations today realize that they cannot count on the traditional education systems because it's, let's be honest, so much backwards and teaching us what it has been teaching us, 100 years ago. And looking into the future, there is a huge gap between, well, all of us, whatever we study in university in about strategy or about engineering, even if it was 5 years ago, just go 5 years ago, it's really not relevant anymore. But we still got stuck there. Think about the fact that most leaderships in organization today is above the age of 55. It's really, really not relevant what they have in their head when it comes to how do you scale forward. And I think I want to jump on something that Charlene said, because AI is not accurate. AI is lying. Most humans do lie as well. Most humans do not have access to, as long as AI is going to be modeled after human, it will behave like human, which go back to the first question that you asked, productivity versus efficiency. AI is extremely efficient today, but it's far from being productive. And as long as there is not a model that can actually, create a full synchronous between humans, between employees and technology, it will keep being efficient. We can fire, someone mentioned here that because of these technologies, we are firing a lot of people. Yes, we do, but we are creating just better efficiency models, not new productivity models. And that's the challenge that I see organizations have today. We do live in a bling reality. And even, in this conversation, we're using an AI, but ask the 1,000 people in the street what is an AI, you will get 1,000 different questions. As long as we don't have a philosophical backbone, nothing that we build on it is really matter or scalable or sustainable or is going to make it more resilience. We need to stop the bling and ChatGPT. I want it because McKinsey said I should have it. No. Why do you need? What is your core business? And I'm trying to work with schools today. A lot of teachers are abandoning the education systems because they're saying, hey, in 5 years, ChatGPT is going to replace me. I need to find a new job. But you have a 20 years of knowledge of being a teacher. You have a 20 years of knowledge of being an engineer. How do we create a better partnership that is focused on productivity, not efficiency, that will help you to extend, makes you better engineer, better teacher? The companies that will be able to crack this formula and educate their employees using that way, or educate the AI using the employees and help the employees extend. It's the Centaur model more than the Borg model. That is the most important task for organizations today, to create these partnerships, to go back to the old concept of digital twins and realize how important digital twins are for workforce development and focus on productivity rather than efficiency, and stop confusing between the two terms, because I see it all the time.
You're exactly right. And I'm glad you brought it up in those terms, because it's an augmented reality, not a replacement technology, right?
Exactly.
We're going to move over and let Hubertus, I love this name, Hubertus von Rome. Oh my God. We got to hear from Hubertus, right? What are the ethical considerations in implementing AI in workplace decision making? And excuse me if I pronounced your name incorrectly.
You did a pretty good job. I was wondering how you were dealing with the name, but no, absolutely, I recognize myself. So
good.
Grand, thank you. Now, so I'm Hubertus. I'm a trained lawyer, European lawyer, which in the context of regulation, which we may touch on, is an important aspect. But then turned manager. So I've been a manager in leadership in tech companies for the last 20 years. And with data sharing solutions, we do accompany decision makers in what we call removing the hurdles for transforming their organizations into human-centric digital organizations. And the hurdles that we remove are typically always the same in a way. There are legal, regulatory issues or technology issues or more and more organizational issues. So we try to literally help them maneuver through those. But I'm going to get to the question straight away. So, what are the ethical considerations in implementing AI in workplace decision making? I would love to start with one word, and that is trust. You know? The flip side of trust is I think, is today is fear. It may change, but at the moment, what I see, what we see, is that a lot of the workforce, and Eric, you just alluded to that as well, in the teaching environment. I think a lot of people are uncertain what the future brings. They are therefore reluctant to embrace change. They fear for their jobs in the first place. You know? And that is, I mean, if you ask, there was a report recently that I think 78% of European companies have already invested or heavily invested into AI. And when asked, what do you do with it? About 20%, or some of them say, we're going to replace, automate some of the jobs. And they say that, and that obviously is the wrong thing to do. So there's a lot of fear in Europe, I think, in general, around AI taking jobs, and therefore trust building is very, very important. I think it's a blessing. AI will be a blessing for the workplace, simply because it will also help us, certainly in Europe, to deal with the demographics. So the workers at the workplace, they have a lot more on their desk, and it will increase because the demographics are not in their favor. More work for less people. So, and that's where AI comes in. I think if we structure it correctly, it will be a huge help, and it will help decision making there as well. And therefore, if we build a trusted environment, which is based on the principle human first when we design, then AI, and human last. When we present AI-based processes, we always need a human eye or ear or both to look at it and make the final decision at the workplace.
This is so important. Very important discussion, balancing the world of business and the world of humanity, what that's going to look like. We all understand, or maybe we should understand, that the biggest cost typically in a business is labor. So when they start looking at that and you're like, wow, how can I reduce my labor? Even though you're talking about people. So my question to business is, don't cut off your nose to spite your face. So we've got to really understand, how do we utilize the technology in the most efficient way? Otherwise, there won't be anyone there to buy your product or service. So we've got to understand that. And we don't want to, create an immense leisure class. I want to go back over here to my first. There she is. If you don't mind, and answer this question here: how can businesses leverage AI to foster a more inclusive and diverse work environment? And remember, as you answer, anyone here can then chime in if they would like, but I'd like to hear what your perspective is.
Sure. So I think that there's a couple of different ways. So there's the more obvious ways where, there's language assistance that is more accessible now. People learn in different ways. And I think that there's more options in training, addressing how people learn and then giving them a solution for that. I think that it's just a lot more accessible now. If you're in a company that prioritizes that, I think as far as that's where the inclusive part of it, there's probably, just like the basic things where it's really easy to hop on a call that's, you can add subtitles just right away for someone that's maybe like hearing impaired or something like that. There's a lot of different ways you can address it. As far as more diverse, I know that we do go into some questions about hiring, HR, talent acquisition and stuff, but I think that you can rely on things that maybe you've overlooked, as far as diversity and making sure. I think that you have access to a database, like, say, there's a certain demographic of people that are not on LinkedIn, and that's not necessarily where you would want to source them. You would want to go to a different type of job board that you could find that information and access that a lot easier and quicker, making it so that you are more diverse in not just hiring, but also just who you're inviting to speak on a podcast with, just in any capacity, really. I think that that's one of many ways, but I don't want to take up too much time. So I guess
No,
that
I
would be
think
my.
you're speaking to something. I see a lot of head nodding there. Is that I like the accessibility point you brought up, especially when it comes to knowledge, just basic knowledge and information. How quickly you can get that information. It's not like AI is thinking for you; it's giving you quick inf- um, data that you can make a better decision or be more informed about. And I think that those are things that we. Does anyone want to chime in on this particular question?
I really like this question, Grant, because when you think about inclusive, just in a word, there might be somebody who was pigeonholed into a specific skill set because they weren't really given an opportunity. And I've learned, like, for instance, I could have never created some of the social media content that I've used for some of my recent projects had it not been for AI. For so many reasons, there weren't images out there. There weren't like the right blend of, the people that I wanted, the diversity of the humans that I wanted to use in my images, in addition to what they're doing. Like, there might be images of this particular type of person doing this particular type of activity, but maybe I wanted to show another person doing that activity. That would show people that, look, you don't have to live by societal norms. You can like break the box. And I think that AI really gives a lot of people that are shy and not comfortable expressing their true talent palette the ability to break that box. And I think AI is really not a time to be afraid. Fear is not a real thing. I think it's the ultimate reality that's manufactured, right? I think it's a time to be inspired. We can stay away from, let's face it. We all know that they are concerns, but they don't have to make us fear challenging ourselves. And I think this is an opportunity for all of us as humans to kind of rebrand ourselves and become diverse in our own personal skill set and ability to communicate.
I agree with you. This is an opportunity. We've got to get more a holistic vision of our human world as we look at it. If you were, let's just say, a being from another dimension or planet, and they looked at Earth, they're not going to divide it up the way we do. They're going to just see a variety of human beings, and in various different stages, and they look at it as a holistic view. You can't have this one particular type of human being speaking for all of humanity, because that's not realistic, right? We're all at different levels of our evolutionary status and what we do in life. But that thing AI will give us, if we train it right, that a lot of people are talking to, train it right, it'll give a holistic view of things and not a skewed view. I want to ask Michael how he feels about the challenges in maintaining a human-centric approach in an AI-enhanced workplace.
All right, I'd love to give the answer, but first I'd like to address something that Eric said. We're talking about the word AI, because AI actually isn't just a year old. AI is really old. They've been doing it for over a decade. I think what's new is generative
Actually, it's
AI.
going back all the way to the Greek. The Greeks created Talos, the bronze, that's the first AI we created as humans.
Right. And exactly. So, we've been using AI for a long time. We've been using it for Netflix, for Amazon. No one's complained about, even for GPS. What people are all we're talking about this now is because it's the first time that this type of technology is impacting people. And it isn't just making our life easier, which is how it does it on Netflix and Amazon. It actually can augment your skills, but, inversely, it could potentially take what you're doing and make you obsolete. So I guess in terms of the challenges, as you're saying, there's a balance, right? There's incredible efficiency that's gained. BCG did a study saying how much efficiency can be gained, but then you have to balance that on, meaningful human roles and interactions. So those are the two things. The other thing, which is over-reliance on AI, which I find, I use it a lot. And I think now is the most important time for a traditional liberal arts education. So I think a lot of people have basically said, they want to be more vocationally trained. They want to go straight for be an engineer, or when they graduate, they want to be able to do X, Y, or Z. However, with this technology, it can do so much that we can kind of take a step back and let it do all the thinking for us and let it do all the decision making for us. But that is a huge challenge, because if we let that happen, then bad things potentially can happen, and there'll be a decrease of critical thinking. So we need to make sure that people need to focus while we lose the automation, all the rote things that we do. People need to spend more time thinking and challenging themselves. Also, these tools need to be user-friendly. They need to be accessible to everybody, regardless of their technical skill. And then the other thing is, now if we use this AI for human resources or looking to hire people, areas that were traditionally sort of just human, driven by empathy, can now actually be automated and kind of seem sort of soulless. So we need to figure out how we're going to do that. And then I guess the other thing is just, was mentioned earlier, is just fear. We have to, in organizations, we have to address the employee fears and resistance to this technology because of change in the workplace, change in the department, change in their security. So all these things together are huge challenges which we need to address as organizations need to address, and also us as a society, of what we want to be.
I agree with you that we're being challenged as a species, as humanity, about becoming more mature. And if we don't mature, it can lead to a lot of problems. I think life is asking us to be more intelligent, to be more conscious about what we are doing. And this is raising our level of awareness on a lot of different levels. I'm going to ask this next question. Anybody can chime in. And I'm looking at Eric because I can see his face. How does AI impact the mental health and well-being? Because this is what we're talking about. You got AI, we talk about fear. This is happening. It's new. There's a lot of people like, oh my God, what's happening now? They can, people think they're losing their job or have to change. Change is inevitable. So how does mental health and well-being of employees are affected by AI?
I mean, every technology, when it's just been introduced to the market, I mean, I usually put a line and it says like, this is creepy, this is not creepy. Every technology, when it's first introduced, is creepy. How do you think mainly women, because the dishwashing machine was the first original dishwashing machine was marketed to women mainly because they thought it's a good thing to target women, as they were doing the dishes at that time, and they says it will give you so much more time to yourself, and they completely didn't realize that the only time a woman had that time for herself was doing the dishes, and so they completely needed to change the marketing. But that thing of like removing the time scared the hell out of a lot of women then. How did we reacted when the first cars were introduced and replaced horses? We were scared like hell. When industrial revolution, urbanization scared the hell out of farmers. We do have a bit of a difference right now because we do have tools that are capable of performing cognitive functions rather than physical functions. And that's right now, when I talk to people, everyone is scared. And we said fear is a construct, but it's not. Everyone is scared.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, and I could see a very good use case of AI, for instance, specifically in the example of impacting mental health and well-being. Imagine if you used AI to learn how one of your employees answers and responds to emails, and you could see that there's a pattern of passive aggression, or, just maybe using words that could be they could be counseled. So learning about problems before they occur is one of the things we don't talk about enough with AI. You can become more proactive. You can learn signals. You can understand patterns and learn to work as a team better. AI could be a part of your team. In my company, we learn to, no matter, I have several businesses that I operate in with a team, and AI works with all of us. And AI can be used to learn about all of the teammates on that team and help the team to work harmoniously. So there are things we don't talk about enough, that the human brain is creative and AI can be used in so many different ways. The use cases are pretty profound.
Let me say this. You introduced me to something that was so profound in AI as far as a use case when it comes to health, is that there's now retinal scans that can look at you and tell if you have some type of ailment that you may or may not be aware of. Just give us a minute and talk about that.
So what you're talking about is a device that was designed by a company called OptiCare AI. Shout out to OptiCare. And they design. A lot of people don't know how telling the eye is to the rest of your body. I am, my whole history is in the vision industry. I'm very passionate about it. And it's just a great opportunity to understand using the power of AI. Usually you'd have to invest and you'd have to visit an eye doctor's office to get this information, but they're developing screening devices now. So people that don't have access to that sort of care can get this overall health and wellness report, but then they take it a step further. They use the AI to take that retinal image and not only talk about what they're learning about that person from, it'll, for instance, one of the first things it says is your eye says that you're 80, but you're really only 40. So that's a bad sign. So you could be like, wow, that's like really visible. Like people believe what they can see. If they see that, they're like, wow, maybe I don't have to wait till something goes wrong to become proactive about my health. So that concept of visualization, and even just to real quickly take it a step further, I talked to the founder and I said, what are you doing to protect people's information? And he talked about very specifically how the retinal scan isn't associated with any personal information. So you can't tie one, piece of information to the other. So these information systems, and there's people here that are probably much more qualified to talk about this than I am. It's a big responsibility when you start playing with these technologies to really make sure you're protecting people and you're not accidentally creating, bad wormholes for bad things to happen. I'll turn it over to one of the data, experts to talk about that.
If I may, you said something very interesting. We need to be very careful of not crossing lines here. It's very hard for us as humans to understand context. AI simply do not understand context. Mm-hmm. And if we're going to ask AI to judge something that it cannot put in the right context, we will be in huge problems. Mm-hmm. On top of that, everything that is digital is absolutely not secure, and it's going to be breached at a certain place. They can say, we don't associate any of the informations, but hey, I came with my phone to do that, that scan. So, you do 1 + 1, you can connect the dots. We need a much more sophisticated policies when it's coming. And in Europe, I can see a little bit more progress than happening in the US right now, but we need much more sophisticated policies when it comes to privacy and safety and private security than there are at this moment of time, especially when you're talking about having an AI analyzing email of employee, which doesn't have a context. That is a very thin line to walk.
The pros and the cons. The pro, yeah, we can get a better understanding of our health. The obviously the con there is, yeah, if it's not secured information, it can be problematic depending on how it used. And just understanding the capability of AI as it's built today when it comes to content. It's a machine. I don't like the conversations that I've had in certain other forums where they look at AI as some form of consciousness, and I'm like, I don't think so.
It's a tool.
I'm pretty sure it's just predictive analytics, which is very good. I want to ask you, Hubert, this question. What roles can AI play in facilitating remote and hybrid work model? Now, we've seen from COVID that, hey, you know what? We can support a worldwide remote workforce. Did it work? Didn't it work? And how can AI roll out now since we know that it's possible?
Well, I grew up still in a world where to learn, I had to go to a library to get information. So remote and hybrid wasn't really on the agenda at all. Then the internet arrived, and information was so much more easily accessible. For my kids, that's already a given. And I think we're now entering a new phase where it's not only the information, but a lot more interpretation that is possible, and conclusions that can be drawn remotely and in hybrid models. So in that sense, remote working will become more efficient, and hybrid, it's the same in a way, a similar approach. I do want to also raise a moment of caution, similar to Eric. I think as much as we gain freedom through AI's capabilities in remote and hybrid work, I love the flexibility myself, but we're humans and we need social interaction. And I think it's the risk that we forget that we cannot replace the social interaction at the workplace or in the social environment. We cannot replace that by the ease and beauty of AI results. I think we have to be very, very cautious, and in particular with generations, I'm thinking about my kids that grow up almost already with a different DNA, because from the very early days they've worked in this. COVID made it worse, in an environment where the social interaction per se has changed from the physical presence to some digital presence. Yeah? We had, for me, we're in the typical pendulum situation. It has gone too far, and that's why the question, I would rephrase it: what are the advantages and concerns when we think about AI and remote and hybrid work models?
Man, very, very, when we don't know the determinants, because if we're spending more time in front of our screens and we're not physically moving, because we do dwell in this physical body and it needs to, you've got to feed it and you've got to exercise it. Otherwise, there will be, the effects of that. And this is a learning curve. We're learning how to operate in this world of advanced technology. And I talked a lot. I've been in information technology 20, 25 years. We are now working with intelligent technology. So it's a new IT. It's not just information, it's a form of intelligence. What does that look like? How do we now operate in it? And we'll fall in love with it for a little bit, but then it'll find its place, and we're finding that and what that's going to look like, right? And this is a perfect question for my partner to my left here, because she's talked about HR processes without bias and in talent acquisition. Is it better or worse? I mean, is it, if it's to a point earlier I heard, if the database, remember, is still utilizing the database, a large language model is a database, and if that database is full of good, bad, and indifferent information, will it have bias or not? Maria?
I think we need to be careful with this one, right? So I think there are a lot of upsides to what you can do with AI and talent acquisition and HR. And I think that also humans haven't mastered the ability to not have biases. So I think that AI is humans that are creating it, and I think that it's not without bias. I think that we can bring it closer and closer to perfect, but it's not ever going to be perfect. And I think that it can be really helpful. I think in departments and subjects as such with HR, I think we just need to be really careful and conscious of it, because I think that, like I said before, it can catch things that we're overlooking. It gives us, but are those databases that it's pulling from bias? So I think that we just need to be careful, and we just need to be aware that it's not perfect, and that it can be a very powerful tool, or it could probably go in the opposite direction too. We just need to tread lightly with that.
I 100% agree. They're already using AI. They wouldn't even call it AI. I don't know what they called it before, but they've had these databases in hiring in which they look at tons and tons of resumes to fit with their particular requirements. And that's how they determine who gets an interview and who does not. Before you get to the human level, you've got to deal with the technology level, and some people have learned how to put in the certain keywords, certain things to get to, I don't want to call it trick the system, but at least get a better advantage. Some people it works, some people it doesn't, but you're working with that layer of machine language instead of human language before you can get to the next human level. And I think that can be problematic. You can get sued for things like that because there's inherent biases that are there. We've only got a few minutes. We've got actually 5 minutes. I want each of you to have closing thoughts. Give me 1 minute about how you felt about what we're talking about and what you want to leave the audience with. And we'll start with Michael.
Well, thank you. So my closing remarks. So overall, I think this technology is very powerful. It can enhance productivity, but I think to what Maria just said, there's inherent bias. And we need to be aware of bias. And as humans, we're even unaware of our own bias. So that's a tricky thing in its own. But it's really the human plus the AI that's the future. But if we over-rely on the AI, which I said before, our critical thinking will go down. And that's going to be a terrible loop in which we won't be able to manage this incredible technology we have made. So therefore, it is really important to always keep everything we decide, keep the human in the loop. That's what I have to say.
Sounds good. Charlene, you're on mute.
Thank you for having me on this panel today. It was great to hear some perspectives from everyone here. My closing, suggestion is learn what's going on, learn how AI is being used, learn what you should do and shouldn't do, learn ways to apply it, learn how to associate with others. And if you're somebody who's an expert in this field, learn how to connect with those that are really trying to, get a full understanding, because there really needs to be a better community approach to this, where people with different perspectives share their ideas, because I think it'll be a long time, if ever, considering how fast this all is moving, before there's anything we could ever remotely consider to be a standard.
I totally agree. Eric, would you like to chime in?
That's a big question. Think about the automotive industry with the rush for electrification. In my point of view, the automotive industry made a full circle and went back to the days of horses, just the night of the great manure crisis in London. We went to the same place. AI is right now making a full circle for humanity and taking us all the way back to the day Julius Caesar stood on the bank of the Rubicon and says, am I going to cross it or not going to cross it? But we are not there alone. Next to us, there is technology. And if technology is going to cross the Rubicon alone, God help us. We need to find a way to hold hands and cross the Rubicon together, because we are just in the beginning stage. Everyone likes the bling bling to say, look at AI, look, we finally reached this destinations. No, we are in the first days. We are just infants, and we need to step back and realize that. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very tricky for us to move forward.
100% agree. Umberto, you like to chime in, leave us with your parting wishes? You're on mute, sir.
Sure. I'm going to add a sort of bottom-up view to it. If we really want to make it work, AI at the workplace, because that was our theme, I think there are a lot of people that are absolutely up for it. I deal a lot in projects with employees in public and private organizations. So the best way is to actually give them an opportunity to try it out. So my theory here is really give people an opportunity to very easily try it out. Let's create as many very, very easy to access and good to understand, and so playgrounds, little labs. Every company should actually embark on that and let people play with it. That also takes away the fear. And certainly the older generations, it speeds up the adaptation of the great things that AI can do. And on the flip side, I think if we do it right, we will also get a lot of interesting voices that will help us to get the balance between functionality and ethics right.
Sounds good. We are out of time. I want to thank everybody for joining the panel today on GatherVerse AI Summit 2024. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your participation.
Pleasure.
Thanks.